Today, we're going to be talking about Dragon Age The Veilguard. Let's face it, this game was talked about to death around its launch on October 31st of 2024, when it released on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Whether the discourse was between angry keyboard warriors on social media, honest discussions between people providing their own thoughts, feedback, and criticisms, or just bringing it up between friends while sharing a few drinks around a campfire after a long day snowboarding, everyone and their abuelas were talking about this game for a few weeks late last year. I've played this game multiple times since it came out, experimenting with different classes, investing time into every side quest, learning about the companions and their backstories, and watching the world of Thedas develop around me as I made decision after decision, impacting Rook's role in making Thedas great again. Look, everyone's entitled to their own opinions about this game, and that's perfectly okay. People are allowed to have their own opinions, and I'm here to give you mine. I'm not going to go into the negative online comments or hostility around the game that overzealous keyboard warriors like to discuss, though. I've put enough time into this game over different playthroughs to offer a little bit more than my 2 cents on this new installment in the Dragon Age franchise, and I hope that you take something away from my review, whichever way it may sway you. I'm just here to share what I loved, and didn't, and with the newest installment in the franchise that has been very dear to my heart since the launch of Dragon Age Origins all the way back in 2009. Man, I'm getting old.
Not enough gold in the world for this.
Alright, enough blabber, let's jump right into Thedas. I'll try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible for major plot points, just in case you haven't experienced the story on your own just yet, but I will insert the obligatory spoiler warning here. Anyone diving into the Dragon Age franchise for the first time can definitely hop in right now without playing the previous 3 games, though I would recommend at least watching a recap or 2 of Inquisition just to better understand where the Veilguard picks up. Trust me, you will get a lot more out of the story and some other lore dumps along the way if you do. Those of you who have yet to tackle this adventure, but have played some of the previous entries, the Veilguard picks up 10 years after Inquisition. You start off immediately getting introduced to your player character, Rook, as he teams up with Varric and friends to stop Solus from destroying the Veil. Things quickly go sideways, and you're then set on taking down Elgar'nan and Gillenane, the 2 elven gods that escaped from the Veil. On the surface, the gameplay mechanics are relatively straightforward. At the start of the game, you get to create Rook as a mage, warrior, or rogue, and each class offers 2 different weapon sets that offer you different light, heavy, and ranged attacks depending on your choices. From there, though, you also have dodges, parries, yes, even for mages, ripostes, companion combos, elemental combos, and you can even swap between weapon sets in the middle of combat. For example, as a rogue you can either dive in head-first, dual-wielding stabby pokey sticks of pain, or as you use your bow and go to town on an enemy from a distance. Warriors can swap between 2-handed skull crushers or be a classic sword and board hero, with either option giving you the opportunity to be the first in, last out role, leaving Rook breathless and covered in darkspawn deaths. If you do go sword and board, you have some shield abilities that make you feel like Captain America as you throw your shield at your enemies. Mages are my personal favorite, though. While you do have your traditional staff that allows you to deal slow, long-range damage with various spells, which is cool in its own right, you also have a mid-ranged option with an Orb and Dagger combo. The Orb and Dagger combo is the perfect blend between mid-range combat and up-close personal options that let you experiment with different spells and combos. If you want to feel like good old Salad Fingers in Revenge of the Sith and have unlimited power, this is the playstyle for you. Don't get me wrong, you can still drop fireballs in your enemies from afar, but you can also teleport right into a cluster of darkspawn, use your dagger to deal high-damaging, short-range spells that give you the taste of frontline excitement just before taking a step back from harm's way, and then just go nuts and cast more of your favorite spells. Whichever class you choose, you have 3 specialization options available once you reach level 20 that let you tap into your class's true power. For reference, the max level is 50. Rogues can choose to be a duelist, where you can use your daggers in quick stabby-like succession. Saboteurs are trap and trick oriented, and Veil Jumpers are more of those who favor the bow and like to just hang back and pluck enemies out one at a time. Warriors can be champions, choosing to continue down the tanky sword and board path. Slayers, who are the more slow but higher damaging 2-handed smash types. Or Reapers, who use some fun and cool looking necrotic style abilities. Mages can be evokers that focus on elemental ice damage. Deathcallers, who focus on necromancy, or Spellblades, who focus more on up-close orb and dagger combos and electrical blasts and strikes. If you get a tingly, satisfying feeling watching Slave 1 drop a seismic charge in Star Wars, go for the Spellblade. Whichever class and specialization you choose, though, you will have very unique gameplay that all follows similar mechanics once you get the hang of it. None of them are outright bad in their own right, and each give enough choices for everyone's personal favorite playstyle, so go with what you want. Additionally, which is really nice, you can respec at any point should you want to test out something different. The controls are actually really smooth. I'm a big fan of them. While I admit it is a drastic shift from previous Dragon Age games that were more tactical in their nature, and used to allow you to pause the game and individually control each companion, this is all real time, as you only control Rook. You can select 3 different abilities for your companions to add to their hotbar, and can select them as you see fit during an encounter. Each companion does have more than 3 skills that you'll have to choose between, and which ones you want to progress, offering you with ample room to play around with whichever is going to work best for you. Like Rook skills, you can respec your companions at any point as well. Their controls do follow more like Mass Effect, which, if you're a fan of, it's probably going to be a pretty quick adjustment for you. While I was originally missing the tactical approach to Dragon Age, the environments and encounters you will go through and explore along your journey, I get the feeling that, everything does kind of work and flow quite well in the direction the developers were wanting the combat to go now, so yeah, after a while I did get used to it. What is really nice about this change, though, is everything does feel responsive, and you can see what is and what isn't working in your favor during an encounter. Every selection feels natural and plays out pretty much exactly how you expect it would. There are 2 major control changes that came with the Veilguard compared to previous installments, like I've been talking about. First, you can no longer select and play as your companions in the lead. Not being able to play as your companions like in previous installments did take me a long ass time to get used to. That was one of the best things that I used to love. If you weren't playing a warrior and you wanted one of your warrior companions to go front line as the main character held back, you used to be able to do that, but not anymore. But, well, I guess it is what it is. It used to also be a lot easier to place your party in a more tactical formation, but, can't do that either. That said, because of how different the gameplay is now, the change actually does work for the better in the long run with what the devs were looking for. What is really disappointing, though, is the second change. This drives me nuts. In the past, your party consisted of your main character and 3 other party members. Now you can only have 2 other ones with you. The developers claimed that this change was to make you feel closer to your companions and have the relationships between them and Rook be more impactful. Honestly, I don't get it. It feels more like a design overhaul than anything, and most of the time I was left feeling frustrated that I couldn't take more than 2 of them out at a time. There are even some side and main story missions that force you to have one of them in your party alongside Rook, so in those instances, you really can only choose one of them to come with you. The other 2 are mandated. What do you want me to say here? Pick a difficulty that suits your playstyle, or lack thereof. Alright, seriously though, regardless of difficulty choice that you pick, the key boss fights all feel challenging and unique in their own right, and leave you feeling like you need to actually take a moment to catch your breath. Swarms of weaker enemies can overpower you if you're not careful, and even the bosses and side quests will give you a challenge. No fight ever felt like a chore, and I had to experiment with different abilities in some cases if my usual plans never worked out. Whenever I felt overpowered, I did do enough damage to feel powerful, but I never felt too overpowered where the game was easy. Whenever I was getting the shit kicked out of me, it was hard enough to feel like you needed to stand up and go again without feeling defeated or wanting to throw my console out the window. I admit, this is one of the most balanced games I've played in quite a while. When it comes to overall graphics, the game is beautiful. The vibrant colors pop in all the right ways, different spells and abilities all feel unique with their own display, and even the darker areas of the game give you an eerie feeling as you walk or run through them. The big change from previous Dragon Age games is in the art style, though. Where previous installments offered a darker, medieval fantasy art style, the Veilguard opted for a more cartoon-like Mass Effect direction. While some might have issues with this, and honestly I had a lot of issues with this at the beginning, the changes did grow on me, and I did enjoy how everything came together. It did take a bit, and by a bit I mean several hours, but I do enjoy it now. Some of the facial animations and lips during dialogue can feel a bit off at times because of this, but overall the new direction still offers a really nice looking game. Where the new art style falls flat is with the Darkspawn design though, and a few specific areas that you can explore as well. It seems off. In previous games, the Darkspawn presented as a grotesque, medieval-like horror that looked physically menacing, especially when it came to the Ogre Gurlocs. Now, however, the new art style drastically takes away from their appearance and, they'd still look pretty good from an artistic perspective. They just don't present like the threats they used to. I'll admit, the beautiful coastal areas in video games are a little soft spot for me, so I always kind of go to that. I'm a huge fan. And this is no different when I got to the Ravane Coast. For the most part, that is. And, as I sat there and explored, it felt off with the art style. It was nice, but something was missing. Nothing major, but it was just a minor annoyance for me. On the contrary, though, the Arlithan Forest is absolutely stunning, and it makes you feel you're actually in the forest with different shadings and how different each tree, rock, and cliff is. Where the visuals also pop, no pun intended, is when you destroy the blight blisters that you come across during your adventure. This is where the Veilguard really shines. Hans Zimmer and Lorne Balfe co-composed the score for this game, and they came out in full force to provide us with a strong soundtrack throughout the entire game. At times, they dipped into remnants of the Inquisition score in a way that truly amplifies major story moments and offers you a childlike giddy feeling as you listen to it. When you're exploring the hub, known as the Lighthouse, take some time to just stand out at one of the edges and appreciate the emptiness of where you are and how lonely it feels, and the subtle sounds and different pitches that come up once in a while, which really feed into that and leave you with a sense of hopelessness at times. At least when your companions don't want to chat your ear off, that is. Character voices are consistently above average as well, whether that be Rook, your companions, or other NPCs you encounter along the way. Morrigan brings her signature sarcastic undertones, Varric's storytelling is always engaging, and Lucanus, I could listen to that guy talk for hours. The overall plot of the game is fairly solid. You start off as part of a team with Varric and Co. to stop Solus's ritual. Things ultimately go sideways, and you're left with Thedas and Chaos as you venture up to stop two elven gods, Elgernon and Gilnean, who escape from the Fade. In order to stop them, the first act of the game is focused on you building your team as you follow up on leads that you're provided with from different factions who can help you, in return for your help one way or another. The missions you work through don't feel forced, and do offer you with ample time to learn about each of the 7 commanders you will have. What you will notice as you work through the first act collecting your circle of friends is that they are all associated with different factions. The Shadow Dragons, Veil Jumpers, Antivan Crows, Grey Wardens, Lords of Fortune, and Mornwatch. These factions all have a 3-star tiered reputation that you can increase as you progress throughout the game, and some of your choices will even impact their respective reputations for better or worse. It can admittedly be a bit of a slow burn as you work through Act 1, but even the okay at best missions are impactful and add to the story in the long run. Contrarily though, the end of Act 1 really turns it up to 11, and throws you into an absolute clusterfuck of a situation that you have to work through. It's challenging, impactful, emotional, and leaves you with a sense of, holy shit, did that just happen, as you roll into Act 2. Act 2 is a little shorter, but a lot stronger in terms of the continuing and developing story. From the end of Act 2 all the way through to the final part of Act 3, you are left with moment after moment of intense, ramped-up action and storylines that all offer a cohesive story, leaving you with no opportunity to catch your breath. A lot of people have compared the scope of the final act to the grand finale of Mass Effect 2, which, I can agree with. In my mind, though, it's more of a mix of that and the Starforge run at the end of the original Knights of the Old Republic game. Whichever way you want to compare it, the finale is absolutely phenomenal. When the credits rolled, I was left in a state of melancholy, yet I still felt satisfied. And after the credits, and although I was left wanting more after I accidentally got the secret ending and wanting to see where the game goes next, I immediately started my second playthrough. The side quests throughout the game are also fairly solid for the most part, Instead of your typical RPG fetch quests or sorting out a spat between rival villagers, the side quests in the Veilguard are either focused on your companions, factions, or another relevant story addition. They are all worth doing in their own way to fully understand not just the overall story and lore, but to really get a sense for how serious the scope of the Escape Gods truly is. I won't go into too many details, but there is one specific side quest you can trigger in the Crossroads that, as a longtime Dragon Age fan, really left me engaged and eager to continue as it progressed, and I listened to the dialogue and its importance in the story moving forward. It's a lot of fun. Now, here's my problems with this. Dragon Age Keep used to be a thing. You could import your save files from previous games, and they would impact some story points and dialogue options moving forward in future installments for you. You had the ability to let your choices in previous games mold your time in Thedas in the following installments, and you actually felt how impactful those choices were, not just for the characters involved, but also how it formed part of the history of Dragon Age in that state for your playthroughs. The big one, obviously, is what you choose to do with Morrigan in Dragon Age 1. And then back in Inquisition, those choices really came to fruition. Hell, there was even a side quest with her, Flemeth, and Kieran if you made the right decisions. Morrigan and Alistair could even have the secret dialogue in Inquisition if you played it a certain way. All of your decisions used to matter moving forward. Now, at the start of the game when you're creating your character, you can select a couple of options of how the events of Inquisition unfolded. However, none of them actually matter. Sure, you might get a few dialogue choices that are different based on what you select, but at the end of the day it doesn't change shit. This is such an infuriating change based on what Dragon Age used to be, and how important the RP in RPG used to be. You used to have multiple playthroughs with drastically different interactions. Now, those few different words aren't enough to satisfy me. Sure, it does make it more friendly to newcomers to the franchise who can, for the most part, seamlessly jump right in. That's about it though. It's a slap in the face for those of us who have been here since Origins. Alright, look. All three games in the past have resulted in a climactic finale with some variation of the same canonical ending. Origins had you slay the Archdemon one way or the other. Dragon Age 2 resulted in you defeating Knight Commander Meredith. Inquisition then ended with you defeating Corypheus. The Veilguard is no different. You complete the final mission with some variances and roll credits. Dragon Age has always been like that. I don't have issues with that, it's fine. I just wish they really had the time to explore the nuances that could have drastically impacted your choices along the way. Save for a few choices throughout the game, and one of a few different endings, the game does end the same way. At least with those variances you would feel the difference of each ending and how impactful the differences were. There are a few returning characters from previous installments as well that you will run into, that all have some interesting additions to the game, and their dialogue can make reference to previous events as well. For example, if you talk to a specific Lord of Fortune enough, they will make a subtle hint about an elven blood mage in Kirkwall. I may be biased, but Morrigan is one of my all-time favorite characters, not just in Dragon Age but gaming as a whole. She was such an interesting and impactful companion in Dragon Age Origins, and we even got to see her in our own DLC in the Witch Hunt for that game. Flemeth's daughter has always been such a great character, and her involvement in Inquisition was equally exciting. The role in the Veilguard is a little different than previous instances where we've seen it, and there are some events that are only hinted at or mentioned during this game. While I was ecstatic to have her back in the fold, don't get me wrong, there are some lore dumps that I would absolutely love to see play out during the game. The Inquisitor also returns for a minor role, which leaves me with two questions. With how much of this game surrounds the Fade, and with Hawk being left in the Fade and Inquisition, where the fuck is Hawk? The devs even gave us Hawk's mage armor as a post-launch drop we can pick up with a note that was left from a friend. We also go to Weishaupt at one point in this game. Where the fuck is the Warden? God damn it. Anyways, moving on. I'm going to break this down into two different subsections. The first being Rook's arc, and the second being your companion's arcs. I loved Rook's development. Leadership and responsibility are the two main characteristics they have, and you really get to see these develop throughout the game, even in smaller moments. You do have your usual 3 dialogue choices in most instances: friendly, sarcastic, and, well, let's call the third option less friendly, because outside of a handful of dialogue choices, you never really get to come across as a total asshole. Mainly going the sarcastic route, along with the odd, truly asshole-like dialogue options that are extremely rare to come across, I felt like I was playing Hawk again. There was something about Rook progressing with the options I chose that just felt right to me in each individual moment, and their leadership really shone in the final act as you rally your party towards the finish line. During the character creator, you can select Rook's background as one of the 6 main factions in the game. However, outside of a couple dialogue options, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. If they wanted to introduce factions like this as part of the development, it should have been far more fleshed out to be executed properly. Unfortunately, it just feels like they were thrown out as part of a previous multiplayer version of the game, where you would make a generic character that belonged to one of the factions and go from there. You can also customize Rook as an elf, Kunari, human, or dwarf. Whichever floats your boat, go nuts. I won't go into each party member's development individually, and I'll let you explore those on your own to make your own decisions and get your own thoughts on it. Overall though, most of them had emotional history linked to their current problems that Rook could learn about and really touch on to get to know them better. Once your relationship progresses enough with each one, you can unlock special Hero of the Veilguard armor that is quite aesthetically pleasing. It's worth investing time into each of their side missions to flesh them out as your supporting cast. My 3 personal favorite party members to learn about and work through their individual stories were Harding, Emmerich, and Davrin. And, Asan as well, but Asan's the best, let's be honest here. These 3, well, I guess 4 of them, were my favorite quests to go through. In my opinion, these 3 left a bigger mark on the development of Thetis than the rest of them. Here's where I got vividly pissed off with my companion's development, though. You can only be nice to them. That's it. No renegade Mass Effect style options, no naughty to nice relationship bar, not even a single dialogue option where you can disagree with them. I get that it's the end of the world and you need your team to be with you on all the best of terms to go up against 2 morally questionable elven gods, but Jesus Christ, why can't there be even a single ounce of tension in the party? This was sorely lacking, and there were moments where having conflict in the party could have actually fucking mattered. But nope, everyone has to share the sandbox, or lighthouse, equally. From a gameplay perspective, this game is worth playing 3 different times to fully explore each class. From a story perspective though, there are enough differences to justify multiple playthroughs, just not as much in previous Dragon Age games. You will still see enough differences in your different playthroughs, especially if you change up your first major decision in Act 1, to warrant a few adventures through Thetis this time around. And honestly, I would recommend it. Even if you don't want to go a certain way in your choices, it's still worth doing just to see how different your playstyles can be. Same with the faction reputation and companion strength. How much time you invest into both of those will also change up your playthroughs. Alright, look. It's no secret that this game was stuck in development hell for the past decade, and it shows. What originally started out as a multiplayer game, oh thank God that didn't happen, to getting sent back to the drawing board at least twice during its development that we know of, this version of Dragon Age is likely what we will get moving forward, if it does move forward at all. There are a lot of things that work for the Veilguard, don't get me wrong, and a lot of other things either miss the mark entirely or just clip the edge of the target. I love a lot of things about this game, but I'm still very pissed off about the things that I don't love because the potential was right there for this to be one of the best RPGs of all time. Will we eventually see another installment? Fuck, I don't know. What I am happy about though, all of my bitching aside, is that we at least got another Dragon Age game, and we got one other opportunity to jump back into Thetis. If this is the end of the road, it's been one hell of a ride since we first drank from the chalice and became a Grey Warden in 2009, and I'm glad that I've been a part of it. For me, unfortunately, this is a 7.5 in the